Welcome to tonight's video on section P3. In this section, we're going to focus on how to manipulate an equation, and specifically how to solve equations, especially ones that have fractions involved, because those are sometimes tricky for people. So the first thing we're going to do here when we come up with this equation is distribute the 1/2. So we get 3/2 x plus 7/2 minus 5 equals 2/3 plus x. So basically, from there to there, we distribute it. So then next, what we're going to do is anytime there's a fraction involved, we're going to clear the fractions after we distribute. So now notice the common denominator of 2 and 3, because the denominator is 2 and 3, common denominator is 6. So we're going to multiply each term by 6. So when I multiply by 6 here, 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. 6 times 5 is 30. 3 goes into 6 twice, times 2 is 4. And 6 times x is 6x. So from here to there, what we did is we cleared the fractions by multiplying by the lowest common denominator. Alright, from here, what we are going to do is combine any like terms. So notice 21 minus 30 gives you -9. So basically, from here to there, we combine like terms. Alright. Then what we're going to do is notice we'll bring the 6x over to the left-hand side, so we get 3x, and bring the 9 over to the right-hand side, so we get 13. So from here to there, we brought the variables to the right-hand side and brought the constants or numbers to the left-hand side. Now you don't have to do it that way, but I just like to stay consistent by bringing the variables to the right, or sorry, to the left. I got my left and right mixed up. By bringing the variables to the left and the constants to the right. Let's fix that. Thank you. Alright, then we're going to divide by 3 to get x equals 13/3. So the last thing we did was divide. Alright, so go ahead and try the next one on your own for the video purpose. Pause it, and then we'll see how you do. Alright, so when you distribute the 1/2 first, you get 3/2 x minus 1/6 plus 1 equals 5 minus 1/6 x. Then we're going to multiply. The common denominator here is 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so you get 9x minus 1, because 6 goes into 6 once, plus 6 equals 30 minus 6 goes into 6 once, so it's just minus x. Combining like terms, we get 9x plus 5, because -1 plus 6 equals 30 minus x. Then we add to bring the variables to the left, so it's 10x. Subtract to bring the constants to the right, so 25, and then divide by 10, so x equals, and when you reduce, 5 goes into 25 5 times, 5 goes into 10 twice, so it's 25 over 10, or 5 halves. If you got it right, give yourself a pat on the back. All right, so the process for solving equations, remember, step 1 is you're going to distribute. Now, you may not have to distribute, but that's always going to be the first thing that you do. Step 2, you're going to clear the fractions. If there are no fractions, you don't have to clear them. Step 3, combine like terms on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Step 4, you're going to bring the variables to the left-hand side and bring the constants to the right-hand side. And step 5, you're going to divide. Now, the only thing you have to keep in mind, if it's an inequality, and you divide by a negative, what do? Yeah, that is correct. You switch or flip the inequality. So let's look at an inequality. So remember, the first thing we do is distribute. So 3x minus 3 plus 2 is less than or equal to 5x plus 6. Remember, we want to clear fractions, but there are no fractions, so we're not clearing any. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Subtract 3x. Actually, sorry. So bringing the variables to the right-hand side, or sorry, the left-hand side, notice 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. And then the constants to the right-hand side gives us less than or equal to 7. Then you divide, and notice you divide by a negative, so that means you're going to flip the inequality. So x is greater than or equal to 7 halves. Now, it says to graph it on a number line and write it in interval notation. So interval notation, remember, well, first let's do the number line. So 7 halves. If it's greater than, remember that's a closed circle, and to the right. As an interval, remember you go from least to greatest. So if it's greater than 7 halves, that means 7 halves is the first thing. If it's going to the right, that means it's going towards infinity. And remember, infinities always have parentheses. And then because it's a closed circle, you're going to put a bracket around it. So that is your answer in interval notation. The next type of problems, we're going to manipulate the equation to solve for a specific variable. For example, m equals x2 minus x1, or sorry, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The first thing that we're going to do here is to multiply to clear the fraction. So notice we'll multiply x2 minus x1 on both sides. Then, remember, our goal is to get x1 by itself. This is what we want to get by itself. So, what we're going to do is distribute the m in. So it looks like that. Then we're going to take and subtract m times x sub 2 so that we have x sub 1, everything with x sub 1 on one side. So it looks like a lot of letters. And then you're just going to divide by negative m. And that can be your final answer. Now, if you decide to get rid of the negative sign and put it up there, it might look a little different, but this is your final answer. That's what x sub 1 is equal to. All right, go ahead and try for the next one, and then I'll go over that one as well. All right, remember, this has a fraction. Whenever you have a fraction you want to multiply by the common denominator, well, the common denominator is all the denominators here multiplied together. So you got to multiply each one by the common denominator. So here, notice the r sub 1 will cancel out, and you're left with r sub 2 times r sub t. Here, the r sub 2 cancels out, and you're left with r sub 1 times r sub t. And here, you're left with r sub 2 times r sub 1, because the r sub t's cancel out. So your goal in life is to get r sub 1 by itself. So all the r sub 1's need to go on one side. So basically, we're going to subtract here r sub 1. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's bring this one over, because remember, we always want to have it on the right hand side. So we're going to do r sub 2, r sub 1, and then here we're going to subtract r sub 2, r sub t. So we get r sub 1, r sub t minus r sub 2, r sub 1 equals negative r sub 2, r sub t. Now, notice we want to get r sub 1 by itself, and both of these have r sub 1, so we're going to factor it out. And then we're going to divide. And notice we get r sub 1 is equal to negative r sub 2, r sub t over r sub t minus r sub 2. And that is our final answer. All right, last question. It says to solve for y here. So remember, we want to isolate the y. So we get minus a times x here, and minus c. So we get by equals negative x minus c, negative ax minus c. Then you divide by b. So you get y equals negative ax minus c divided by b. All right, I hope that helps. I know there's a lot of variables in there in the last problems manipulating. And have a good rest of your evening, and I'll see you